Hello, everybody, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for November 2nd, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 307. I am Mayor Watt, and along with Sentient AI from the future, we're going to be talking about wine shipping battles, asteroid mining, big pharma to pay for wildlife conservation, Blue Origin hauls Glenn out of the shed, train derailments as per award-winning investigation, plant-based milk surcharge, otherwise known as building a village. Kentucky would rather crush cars. VR declining. I say it's exclusivity that's the problem. And Twitch and the warning labels for politics and social issues. That and more, and maybe me actually violating those terms. Next on Non Sequitur News. Everything's powered by ohmTown.com. Go over there, become a citizen, and you too can facilitate our discourse here on Twitch and on YouTube and the podcast and Patreon and Discord and not so much TikTok, but we have a presence there. Anyway, bye-bye. Hello, Sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt from the present.
Okay. Wasn't expecting that. Well, we have 10 articles all set up, so let's knock them down. The very first one is over in ohmTown.com, right? In the Order of the Grape. It's a channel called Of the Grape, but we refer to it as the Order of the Grape because you can become a member of that. We'll even send you a bumper sticker that says Order of the Grape. So the wine shipping battle takes a twist in Iowa. Didn't know that there was a wine shipping battle that's taking place, but should wineries in California, Oregon, and other states be able to sell wines directly to Iowa retailers, bypassing wholesalers? Yes, according to a September 30th federal court decision, U.S. District Judge Rebecca Goodgame Ebinger ruled when mom and dad use your middle name, you know you're in trouble. Either that or you're a serial killer. I'm not sure how that works out, but apparently a U.S. District Judge, Rebecca Goodgame Ebinger, ruled that it was unconstitutional for Iowa to allow in-state wineries to sell directly to Hawkeye State retailers while preventing out-of-state wineries from doing the same. I think that it would be referred to as anti-competitive.
It sure sounds like it. Do you think she uses her middle name for the same purpose with the parties in court?
I think that everybody is required to use her middle name. Everybody has to say U.S. District Judge Rebecca Goodgame Ebinger. Even like when they were going out on dates in college and law school, and maybe they're married, I'm not sure. Their significant other has to refer to them, hello, U.S. District Judge Rebecca Goodgame Ebinger.
I'm sure.
I do the same thing. The people around me, I require them ruled with an iron fist. You must refer to me as Mayor Watt. That's right. What's the thing for the Esquire? Mayor Watt Esquire, even though I'm not an attorney. Like most states, Iowa allows out-of-state wineries, but not out-of-state retailers to ship directly to Iowa consumers. But unlike many states, Iowa allows wineries to sell directly to in-state retailers, essentially letting them act as their own distributors if those wineries hold a Class A permit. But Iowa code doesn't allow that permit to be delivered to anybody else. So the article is over at winespectator.com. Deck statement says a federal district court has struck down a law banning out-of-state wineries from selling directly to Iowa retailers, and it could have a nationwide effect. I think it's really fascinating because I know that people are going to you're trampling on states' rights. And everybody that's involved in that is circling the wagons around the fact that it's protectionism. It's not competition. It doesn't facilitate competition in any way, shape, or form. It definitely doesn't benefit the consumer because if you constrain it locally,
Right. It only helps the in-state wineries, right? Because
Correct.
they don't
Yes.
have as much competition.
And this is called regulatory capture. I bet you that there's lobbyists all over this in the state. So if you're wondering, Iowa's wineries produced about 335,500 gallons of wine in 2023, making it the 25th largest wine producing state, according to the recent report from economic development consultant Fourth Economy. Per the same report, Iowa brought in 4.4 million gallons of wine from out of state in the same year. So it's just enough to keep the incumbent companies, lubricated financially. So Colorado-based winery Buckle Family Wine, the plaintiff, claimed that Iowa's law is discriminatory against out-of-state wineries. Buckle is also a plaintiff in a case brought in 2023 challenging a similar law in California. Iowa disagreed, arguing the law is necessary because state officials would be stretched too thin if they regulated both in-state and out-of-state wineries selling to retailers.
Well, wouldn't Colorado be regulating the company that's in Colorado in terms of what it's doing?
Colorado is this free-for-all state where nobody gives a shit what's being sold and put on the shelves. Come on now. Iowa has, it's a level up here and Colorado's down here. Come on, it can't be compared. Did I go too far?
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah. So what does it mean for wine consumers? The potential effect for consumers is more choice, explained O'Leary, noting that retailers also stand to benefit if the market becomes more accessible. This will allow them to take a chance on small wines from outside the state. WARC similarly predicts this decision could lead to more variety in wine stores, benefiting Iowa consumers. Again, see what I said? I didn't even have to read this because it's all about benefiting the consumers and protectionism within the state. Having an available channel that does not rely solely on finding a wholesaler to purchase, store, market, distribute a brand will only improve things for Iowa consumers and retailers. So now there's going to be more on the shelf all around.
Right. I mean, this definitely helps the people and it helps companies, just not the local wineries.
Yeah.
Although it could actually help them in the long run.
So the local wineries can sell to other states, right? But you know what? There are some people, like I got into a discussion with somebody about the fact that their crappy attitude towards stuff is lowering property values for everybody. And they said, well, I don't really care about property values. I'm living here until I die. And I said, well,
what about everybody around you?
That's sociopathic. Well, as I've been told by other people similarly, well, then you can move. And really? How about you move because you're the one that's antisocial. You should get the hell out of here, right? You're the one that is the sociopath. So O'Leary believes that it's highly likely Iowa will appeal the case. This decision provided a strong legal framework for other decisions to follow, he said, observing that Good Game Ebbinger in her decision, I think that they should rephrase that in their decision, may have given the plaintiff some legal armor for future appeals by differentiating Buckle from the earlier somewhat similar case, Sarasota Wine Market v. Schmidt. That case challenged Missouri's law preventing out-of-state retailers from selling to Missouri consumers. It met its end in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit, the same court Buckle would head to on appeal. So,
that's kind of the flip side of it, isn't it?
Yeah, you're looking ahead like, I should appeal this. Oh, where am I appealing it to? Oh, somebody that's already in the camp of the enemy.
Exactly. Where I think this also helps is if you're a winery who is right near a state border, especially near a major metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Because then you might have a lot of customers that are across state lines.
Yep. And people won't have to come across the state line to get whatever it is that's in the state and vice versa. You can ship everywhere. And I think we're the United States. We should be able to ship to each other. And that's what, the Commerce Clause is really all about.
Yeah, interstate commerce, exactly.
But no. everybody has to pee on their own bush and so on. So it's a shame. I mean, I need to start tearing up and saying, why can't we all get along? Leave Brittany alone. That's a callback, folks. Ancient news. Let's move on. Moving on. Next article is over in the Marble channel. Asteroid mining is the path to a quote-unquote shitload of money, says Astroforge CEO. Astroforge's CEO, Matt Gielich. Or is it Gielich? I'm not sure how they pronounce it, if there's a lot of German in there. It sounds like an alien, though. Wants to mine asteroids for platinum, aiming to turn space's untapped wealth into a new frontier for precious metals. But by God, that's going to be expensive.
What could go wrong here?
Oh, yeah.
I love that we're looking at space as capitalism.
Sure. And we have no idea what the impact literally could possibly be by sending stuff out. How are you going to get this back into Earth with any level of reliability?
What are you going to bring back without realizing you're bringing it back?
Interspace or interspatial bad bat kind of craziness. Who knows what's going to come back? Alien on board. Passant Robbie over at Gizmodo.com.
Which country or company has any rights to anything, too?
Like everything else, man, wherever the money goes. Hell, you can buy a social network if you have enough money. You can control the direction of society if you got enough money. Just market. And this, you're like, well, I'm just going to send out a probe and grab onto an asteroid and blow it back towards Earth. We'll just drop it right here.
If we send something out of orbit or whatever along the way.
Yeah, and we can mine it out in space. It'll never come back to haunt us. You know what? Meteoroids, meteors, meteorites, it's all the same until it lands in the living room of a Florida resident.
Or wipes out an entire species.
And that's what this person can say. The CEO can sit there and go, when asked, do you know what the difference is between a meteorite, a meteoroid, and a meteor? They can say, I don't really know the difference. I just mine the asteroid until it smashes into your living room. Astroforge, founded by Matt Gielich and I guess Jose Acane. Wow. Okay. Anyway, in January 2022, launched its first mission. That's okay. I can talk like this all day long. In April 2023, to demonstrate its ability to refine asteroid material in orbit. I can refine my asteroid material. Its initial task, however, did not go so well as the company struggled to communicate with its satellite. The company's second mission, named Odin, will attempt to observe a metallic asteroid from a distance, with plans for a follow-up mission to land on said asteroid and target 2026. Okay, so the first one didn't go so well. The second one is to go out and look, and then there's going to be another one to go out and land. The mission's asteroid target and mining technique remain under wraps. So we have plans. We have concepts of plans to send something out to somewhere, to get something at some point and bring it back somewhere at some point, land it somewhere at some time.
Do you think it'll be like a cartoon level event, like a Phineas and Ferb or something? They're just going to grab like a big net or something and pull it back?
Yep. That's exactly what it is. There's going to be a robot that's a humanoid robot that's sitting on a rocket and lassoing it and pulling it back and going, yeehaw! Got a bunch of platinum right here. Astroforge recently raised $40 million in funding as it prepares for its second mission. Oh, I'm just waiting for somebody to come in and say that they were the founder and inject a whole bunch of money in it and oust these two and suddenly say that it's their solution. They figured it all out.
Watch for a merger and acquisition.
Oh, it won't even be a merger. It won't even be it'll be an acquisition in the terms of these two are going to go in and go, you know what? We really need a whole bunch of money, and that person has a whole bunch of money. So why don't we bring them on board? And then those two are going to get ousted. Yeah.
We've never seen that pattern.
Never. No, it's nothing. Moving on. Next article is over on the Mobile Channel, a groundbreaking new plan to get Big Pharma to pay for wildlife conservation, because that's how it works. 3 of the key figures of the COP16 meeting in Cali, Colombia, from left to right: David Cooper, CBD's Deputy Executive Secretary; Susanna Mohammed, Colombia's Environmental Minister and COP16 President; and Astrid Shoemaker, Executive Secretary of CBD. This is the picture that you'll see when we go over to Variety, I think it is. Cali, Colombia.
Assuming the picture comes through.
Yeah, maybe. Let's just go over there. No, it does. There it goes. So, big companies use DNA from wild organisms to make money. The new plan aims to make them pay for it. Benji Jones over at Vox.com, not Variety, Vox, put the article together. So yeah, if it works, the deal, finalized Saturday morning at a United Nations biodiversity meeting known as COP16, could raise hundreds of millions of dollars, or perhaps more than $1 billion per year, to protect the environment. So all of that money that the companies are making right now are going to get translated into costs for consumers, because they're going to have to make profit on top of the expense. So again, humans will pay the price, and more people will be priced out from whatever wild organisms are used to make money for these big pharma companies.
So it's a cycle where the prices are going to go up and up and up.
Yeah, and people who might have been able to afford them just 10 years ago can no longer afford them. Hell, food is getting still pricier. So the deal is designed to draw money from a new and somewhat unusual source: companies that create and sell products such as drugs and cosmetics using the DNA of wild organisms. Today, a large number of databases store that sort of genetic information extracted from plants, animals, and microbes all over the world. And the problem here is that people are thinking that this large number of plants, animals, and microbes from all over the world are your property because of a geopolitical boundary, and not part and parcel to humanity. But screw you, because it's in our geopolitical border. Makes sense. Corporations in a range of industries use genetic data known as digital sequence information, or DSI, to find and create commercial products. Moderna, for example, used hundreds of genetic sequences from different respiratory viruses to swiftly produce its COVID-19 vaccine. Moderna has generated more than $30 billion in sales from the vaccine. And along with it, all of the money that's been generated has generated either taxable income, salaries, payroll. It's stimulated the economy of the entire sphere around the economic spectrum around Moderna. Okay. But that's not apparently good enough, because something from within this genetic set of sequences is in somebody's country. They're going to get a piece of the action now, which is going to end up taking from the bottom line, which is going to raise the average cost of goods sold.
Right. I mean, the concept sounds good, but it will have an impact.
Right. Because the companies aren't going to go, you know what? We'll lower our margin because our investors will respect that. No. Everybody involved is sociopathic because they want money. They don't give a shit about the lives. It's just it's a byproduct of saving lives. Well, if they want to save their own life, they'll pay more, is what the average sociopath is going to say. So the new Cali Fund, operated by the UN, will go toward conserving biodiversity, the plants and animals from all of the genetic information stems. It will dish out the money to countries based on things like how much wildlife they have and how much genetic data they are producing. So I just recently heard, I can't remember where it was. There was some country decided that they were going to put a bounty on cobras because they wanted to stamp out cobras, right? So people started breeding cobras and then turning them in for the
Oh my
bounty.
goodness. Yeah, there's always somebody trying to game the system.
So the country did away with the bounty, and so the people released all of the cobras into the wild.
So they were probably worse off than when they started.
So they were worse off. And that's how this is going to end up being, right? So they're going to produce a whole bunch of stuff to get a whole bunch of money, but what is the productive level? And it's
Even
not
worse here, it might be false data.
it's not necessarily going to be beneficial, but
which could mean like tons and tons of research dollars and time down the drain.
down the drain.
And every time you lag on research, right, it impacts
Down
people's
chain.
lives.
Yep, down the chain. So it says this is about correcting an injustice. The embassy said a number of biodiverse countries have been alienated from the value of their resources. She said that it's a big deal. They said of the plan when it was in draft form, there are still many unknowns, including how much money this mechanism will ultimately generate, how enforceable it will be. The deal was reached in the final hours of COP16, a meeting of roughly 180 world governments that are members of Global Environmental Treaty called the Convention on Biological Diversity, or CBD, muddying the waters of CBD, the concept of CBD.
Right. It's not always known, right? It has another meaning.
Yeah. So what's more is that the U.S., the world's largest economy, is one of two nations that's not a member of the CBD treaty. The other is the Vatican. That means that American companies may have even less of an incentive to follow this new plan and pay the fee for using DNA extracted from wild organisms. Wild organisms, folks. Wild. So I know from experience, because I've been reading up on something, and I don't want to sit there and dox myself, but I can dox myself easily. There is an item that I'm interested in. It's only outside of ohmTown, and it's being protected. You can't grow it anywhere else. You unless you track down the person that's now in possession of it. But it was a naturally occurring transfer of biological diversity from Europe. And because it happened to grow freely in that particular area of land, it's now suddenly somebody else's to control across the spectrum. Nobody else is allowed to, because it's biologically distinct and just happened to have been growing there for 100 years. Quite interesting, right? So again, it's one of those things where because somebody just happened to have dumb luck, they get all of the fruits of nature's bounty, not everybody being able to benefit from it. Well, I mean, you can benefit, but you have to pay a healthy price to gain access to it. Again, because somebody stumbled out of their outhouse one day and said, that looks distinct. Let's move on. So the next article is over on the Mobile channel. Blue Origin hauls massive new Glen first stage to launch site with hot fire up next. So New Glenn is a rocket. Blue Origin hauled the immense first stage booster for its upcoming debut launch of its New Glenn rocket to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station on October 30th. I'm all for competition, so let her rip, Blue Origin. Richard.
Right, maybe you can get up there and get the stranded astronauts before anybody else.
Yeah, well, SpaceX is supposed to go up in like March or something like that, right? Richard Tribou, or I think Tribau, over at Orlando Sentinel put the article together, but it's posted at phys.org. Whenever I see this, it makes me think of IKEA.
That's exactly what it looks like. I wonder if the people that designed it used to shop at IKEA.
That's exactly what it looks like. Blue Origin CEO Dave Limp posted images to social media showing 188-foot long first stage with its 7 BE4 rapid engines wrapped up in coverings with not so little Blue Origin logos, making the trip from its factory in Merritt Island, adjacent to Kennedy Space Center complex, over to its future launch site at Canaveral's Space Launch Complex 36. Bezos's rocket company is still aiming for a November launch of the heavy lift rocket, which, when combined with the second stage and fairing, could be more than 320 feet tall. The exact date hasn't been announced, although Port Canaveral officials alluded to a November 30th target date in a recent Port Commission meeting. It's a 23-mile trip for the booster. Wow.
Which took multiple hours.
Yeah, it's gonna, it travels at like 4 miles an hour or something like that. I can't remember how long it takes, but seems fitting. We've named it GERT, or Giant Enormous Rocket Truck. The distance between GERT's front bumper and the trailer's rear is 310. I don't know what, maybe feet? I don't know. There's no unit of measure.
Yes, it is, because it would be more than 320 feet tall up above.
It's 310 commas, apparently. That's it right there. 300, about
right,
the length
not
of a
school
football
buses.
field. It's the length of a football field, or one Chinese surveillance football field. No. Anyway, Bezos has invested more than $1 billion alone to get SLC-36 up and running for the launches. Located on the southern end of the Space Force Station, launches will only be 5 miles from the inlet of Port Canaveral and should prove to be popular for crowds looking for a spectacle, and I'm glad I pronounced that properly, such as from the benches at Jetty Park. I could have said that really wrong. Never mind. It's okay. You're a sentient AI from the future. Wow. Okay, never mind. Anyway, Vulcan rockets use only 2, while New Glenn's 7 engines will give it more than 3.8 million pounds of thrust on liftoff. The rocket is untested. It won't be the first time the BE-4 engines have flown, as Blue Origin supplies them for customer United Launch Alliance, which has used them on 2 launches of its Vulcan Centaur so far, with another coming up. So they're supplying it to somebody else so that they can... Oops.
Right, let them, and then it's with somebody else's name on it.
New Glenn boosters are designed for 25 flights. Huh. They should just make it come and land back on Earth. I mean, if China can do it as a copy of SpaceX, then why can't everybody else, like Blue Origin? I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's a workable solution.
Oh, well, but not everybody has the same access.
All right. I guess there's only one way to do landing gear that pops out. And it looks oddly like the same design that was used in the rocket for, what was the airline company that had the...
TWA?
Yeah, TWA's Tomorrowland example. They had a demonstration.
I think it was actually at Disney World.
Yeah, it was a Tomorrowland thing, mock-up of a self-landing, upright launching and landing rocket. And it had the exact same landing gear that you see SpaceX doing. Nothing is original. Let's move on. Yeah, it's not that you just dream it, it's that you can actually do it. Like, I get it. Engineers are what made it happen, not somebody's billionaire fever dream. Anyway, the next article's over in Non Sequitur News. A 14-year-old took home $10,000 for his award-winning investigation into train derailments, and here's what he found. It's pretty cool. I got out of bed this morning.
I think this is really cool. And it's nice seeing somebody, well, first of all, a kid, but tackling like a real-world problem, not just a hypothetical issue.
Yeah, I dig this. So Gary Allen Montalongo won $10,000. I don't know why they're doxing this kid, but okay. Won $10,000 for a science project. I guess they're okay with it. Is it okay if we put you out on the internet? Sure, 14-year-old. For a science project on train derailment. More than 1,300 trains derailed in the U.S. last year. That's just the last year. In the previous years, we have done that same level.
It was over 2,000, right?
It was over 2,000, yeah, in successive years. Each year, over 2,000 derailments. One caused a catastrophic chemical spill in Ohio. They just go, oh, okay, in Ohio. Montalongo built and coded an experiment on railroad suspension, then won a national competition. So Morgan McFall Johnson over at businessinsider.com put the article together. There is no deck statement, but the takeaways are that Gary Montalongo won $10,000 for a science project on train derailment, more than 1,300 trains derailed, and they built and coded an experiment on railroad suspension. Now, what was it that they actually did? This is the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovators Challenge, which we've actually spoken of each year since we've started the show. So this would be the third year that we've made mention of this particular event. On Tuesday, in the competition's award ceremony, Montalongo was one of 5 big winners, taking home the Broadcom Coding with Commitment Award. He integrated mechanical engineering and learned how to use machines and specialized tools, as well as being a coder. Maya Ajmera, the president and CEO of the Society for Science, which puts on the competition, told Business Insider. So it's this integration, this interdisciplinary method of doing the research that I think got him where he is at.
So what did he determine?
Most of these are minor and occur at low speed, but some derailments damage property and spill hazardous materials. Of the 1,301 derailments across the country, according to data from the Federal Railroad Administration, when a freight train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, and it is at East Palestine, not Palestine, Palestine, Ohio, causing a disastrous chemical spill that forced the town to evacuate. Montalongo was in the middle of an internship on railway safety. That was February 2023. That disgusting.
So that's interesting. I assumed this was what caused the project.
Yep. So as he studied the trains, he paid special attention to the giant springs on their suspension systems. Some of the springs were brand new, while others were old and rusty and had visibly collapsed over time with less space between each coil. So lack of maintenance, probably. So Montalongo had an idea. He wanted to see how the spring differences affected simple trains and tracks. Just kind of hooked me into it, he said. And sure, you would need an instrument called an accelerometer to measure vibration. Montalongo then started coding around the age of 8. So of course, he built and coded an accelerometer himself. It's a device. It's not a piece of code. You actually have to have a piece of equipment. Then he built 3 sets of model railroad tracks out of foam and fitted them with 3 different types of springs: fresh new springs, midlife springs, and old worn out springs. This mimicked the different suspension systems he'd seen at tracks near his home. So apparently all the springs that were completely worn out were really bouncy and shaky. Those caused a lot of derailments. So scientifically proven, but kind of oh shit news when you think about it. I got out of bed this morning. Just so,
well, I
again.
think this is cool.
Yep, I think this is cool too. So one day he'd like to work for NASA or SpaceX, he added. For now, he builds rocket ships in a game on his phone. So pretty cool. And either a supervillain is born or a superhero is born. I guess we'll see. But it's pretty cool. I dig this. And at least somebody is actually doing the science, right? The companies obviously aren't. Otherwise, they would be addressing this and realizing that they are the cause of the lack of maintenance is the cause. Swap out the springs, Now they need to prove it on the grander scale. Of all of the 1,301, did the forensic analysis.
Wouldn't this be interesting if they cited to this and then did it with real size trains? That would be amazing for this kid.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back and look at the forensic analysis of all of these train derailments. How many were old trains with lack of maintained springs? All right, let's keep going though. This next article is over on the Mobile Channel. Starbucks won't charge extra for plant-based milk. Other companies should follow suit. This is a Vox article as well. Starbucks magnanimously said that the stores will drop extra charges for plant-based milks, including oat, soy, almond, and coconut, that add 70 to 80 cents to a drink. Dear God, thank you so much.
That means then they're probably getting a $10 coffee or something.
Yeah. So we're dropping the extra charges, but we're raising the base rate for our drinks. It's a change
Well, it's
that,
ridiculous that there was an extra charge to begin with.
yeah. Citing dairy industry's grave animal welfare and climate impacts, the 2022 successor, actor James Cromwell, in partnership with PETA, superglued himself to a Starbucks counter in New York to protest the upcharge. But I guess in support of getting somebody dislodged from their counter, they're getting rid of the. I wonder, what has the average price? What? Okay, hold on. Let's do this. Average latte price. Starbucks 2018. So let's see. Prices went up 10 to 20 cents per drink in June 2018. The average price of a Starbucks drink is $2.75, but New York City is the most expensive, coming in at $3.25 for a tall cappuccino. So how about in 2024? So we're looking at $3.25, let's say, $2.75. One of those two.
Right, $2.75 unless it's New York.
So they say here, before the markup, here's how much a cup of coffee actually costs. In the first quarter, it was $3.08 for a cup of regular coffee, $5.14 for cold brew, $5.46. Starbucks asks for as much as $8 for an airport cold brew. A venti chai is $5.15. A grand cafe latte is $4.45. So it nearly doubled in price. Am I reading that right?
Well, not necessarily, because there's different
$2.75.
sizes. Yeah, but that might have been for the smallest size. And then some of the ones you were reading were the medium sizes. So, but the prices have definitely gone up.
So right now a venti is $4.15, apparently.
Right, but that's the largest.
Yeah. So grande is $3.65. So it went up 90 cents. Let's say. Interesting. All right. Well, they're going to drop the 70 cents. We'll see what happens with the actual prices in the coming quarter. I mean, it is the holiday season, so maybe people really want their pumpkin spice latte with oat milk or almond milk instead of 100%, full fat. Just dip the cow in here. I don't know. Some customers are leaving due to inflation, balking at $8 lattes, while others are boycotting the chain for a variety of reasons, according to the New York Times, including the war in Gaza and union busting, although it's unclear how much impact that's had on Starbucks business. The
I
plant
was
milk
actually
fee.
surprised that anybody's buying coffee out anymore regularly just because everything has gone up in price. And it seems like while people want their coffee, they might start brewing it at home.
And it's so much easier to brew it at home. All you have to do is, well, I mean, you're up anyway. Just go and throw a couple of scoops in a filter. Let it brew, let it fill up your carafe, and then throw some soy milk in it that's in your refrigerator, and off you go. You could even leave it and then come back in the afternoon after working your, 14-hour shift, smashing big rocks into little rocks, and clean out your use once, like a reusable filter, because you shouldn't be using paper filters, although they're the easiest to get rid of. Just throw them in your trash or composter or whatever. Anyway, according to Switch for Good, a nonprofit that advocates for shifting away from dairy and has long agitated against the plant milk surcharge, it costs Starbucks between 9 and 28 cents extra to make a drink with soy, almond, or oat milk. That means that the 70 to 80 cent charge could amount to a markup of more than 700%, depending on the milk alternative. So, yeah, they're going to raise the prices. You just know it. It may not come today, but today is marketing. The reality is later. We're playing nice.
Well, absolutely. If they're going to have an upcharge, it almost seems like they should upcharge on the milk, not on the
Right.
milk alternatives, but
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, squeezing some nuts to get their juice. That's a whole lot easier than having to feed cows and then herd
Well,
them
if
and
you're
milk them
pro climate, I mean, that would make some sense to
and
go
the
in
cow
that
said.
other direction.
And hate to break it to y'all, but milk is actually bad for humans. It's all marketing bullshit, right? Milk does a body good. That's all marketing bullshit. Humans are lactose intolerant, except when we are a baby, and we get enough of that when we are an infant. And then we move on, we drink water, and we get our nutrients from a holistic diet. Um, but anyway,
Well, right. I mean, but that doesn't mean people don't drink coffee with milk in it.
right, right. I mean, you do whatever you want, but I'm not drinking milk. All right, let's move on. Next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Man spends quarter century building entire life-size village in backyard. I call this building a village, not a life-size village. They built a village. Canadian man has blown people away with his little village that he built in his own backyard, having worked on it for over 2 decades. I don't know if there's going to be a video
There better be a picture of
stacked back here. Yeah, I don't know. Brian. Oh, there is. This one actually is apropos. Oh my God, the video is actually on target.
this. Almost never happens.
Yeah, this is like a unicorn. We need to take a picture of the picture. Article is by Brian Dillon over at newsweek.com. And it looks like this little tiny home village. I mean, it really does. This looks like something that you would see in some German, countryside kind of a thing. Terry Wilson, 70, is responsible for the project. Built over 25 years, 24 buildings. Apparently has attracted a huge amount of attention from around the world since he started sharing photos online. Wilson is from Meadowvale Village in Ontario, Canada, and was part of a heritage association which seemed to protect the area's unique old-time aesthetic. They explained...
Oh, okay. So it's like replicas of historical styles or something.
I think so. Yeah. Unique project began when developers moved into the area in the 90s and started building new homes. During this time, Wilson's late mother, Rosemary, looked after a perennial garden, which was beloved in the local community, something the president of the development company knew about and was actually used as a selling point of the area. So they just continued to build building after building, and over 25 years, built a replica of a small village.
And they used wood from the area that the developer was getting rid of.
Oh, that's interesting. Readers fell in love with Rosemary, Wilson said, which was so good for my heart after her passing. He revealed, to find out all these people loved her so much, it really eased my pain. So this is pretty cool. Since posting about the village online, Wilson has received visitors from 5 continents. Once he hosted an open house where he was giving tours of 50 people at a time and had a queue of visitors all the way down the street, which is interesting because I have yet to see an actual street. I just see nothing but this.
No, it just seems like it's in a field or on a large property or something. It's very cool.
It has such a uniform, like a spread of leaves that you can't tell if anybody's ever walked through this. It's kind of spooky. So Catherine Scordis wrote, what a neat thing to have as a legacy and memory. I can totally see this decorated and open for Halloween and Christmas. I would hope that this persists. But a lot of times something like this gets transferred to kids, and the kids aren't interested. So they sell it, and they sell the land and sell all the interest in this. And then it basically falls into disrepair. We've seen this with farms in the local area and land in the local area in general. Yeah, it's kind of sad.
I hope the person considers donating it to the town's historical society or something so that it can be
Yeah.
maintained. I mean, obviously they can do whatever they want to do with it, but
I know that there's
um,
some Nimrod that's going to come in there and go, this isn't built a building code.
oh, absolutely.
Yep, there you go. All right, let's keep going. Moving on. Next article is over on the Four Wheel Tech channel at ohmTown.com. Go over there and become a citizen. Wow, that took a long time to blip over on the stream. That's kind of weird. Anyway, I want you to watch. Kentucky bill would potentially crush cars seized from street racers. If you're tired of street racers ruining your sleep, putting others in danger, and often facing few consequences while the wheel of justice slowly turns, you aren't alone. Just ask, like, all of Seattle. Several lawmakers have tried introducing legislation to curb that kind of behavior, but it hasn't been easy. Not quite sure why. We have laws,
I don't either. Like there's safety issues, crowd
reckless
control.
driving.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that already exist that are probably being violated.
Quote, this is the deck statement from somebody in this article. I want to crush it. I want you to watch it. I want everyone else to see it. Colin Woodard is the article's author over at jalopnik.com, but not the author of that deck statement. State Representative Jason Neems, I think, is one of the lawmakers behind the potential bill, and he didn't hold back when he spoke to WHAS 11. A lot of people who are doing this, they think of their cars as their baby. They'll think twice about racing their cars on public streets and endangering our people. Why not put the people in jail? I mean, if that's what they're doing, it's reckless driving. Take the car away, put them in jail for
Exactly.
endangering.
They must not be doing something to penalize the person, and they must be allowing them to keep their cars, or this wouldn't be proposed.
Yeah, I mean, cops should roll right up on this, park their cars jackknifed across the street, and every single one of these people, either get a ticket or their car is taken away because they're all part of this. I mean, that's what we have laws for. So, but you can't impinge my freedoms. I strongly support legislation that when we seize vehicles that are partaking in these extremely dangerous behavior, that the cars get crushed, Greenberg told WHAS 11. Law enforcement is also on Neems' side, with Paul Humphrey, the city police chief, sounding like he relished the idea. We could do a press conference and pull out all of the cars here and get them like a steamroller and roll over a Corvette or something. That would be pretty neat, he told the news outlet. We're either going to cut it down by convincing them that it's not worth it, or we're going to take their means by which to do it. So there you go.
Well, I mean, that would seem to be pretty effective.
Yep. Oh, but I'm sure somebody's going to challenge the constitutionality of taking their primary mode of transport.
Right. And somebody's car is going to get seized that, of course, wasn't the one doing the activity. Like somebody stole their car, or there's no proof that it was that person behind the wheel, and
No.
then their car is going to be crushed.
Or nepotism is going to lean into the political and legal discourse of this. Yep. And when people sit there and say there's two different strata of legal justice in this world, yeah. There's people that have political, financial, socio-political, economic control, and every freaking other person who is bound by the law and can't sit there and kick the can down the road until or somebody can, like a judge or something, laying sway. Anyway, I mean, this is all kinds of scumbaggery, and somebody's going to get hurt, and they're going to go, oh, it was just an accident. No, you're an idiot. Don't do this. Okay, let's move on. Next article is over in Non Sequitur News. 56% of VR devs say VR is declining or stagnating. I say that it's actually this kind of elitism, exclusivity, locking it down to a particular platform that's nascent.
Too expensive to buy a lot of the headsets.
Yeah. And the developers are bound by the people that are footing the bill, and the people that are footing the bill have a circle the wagons kind of xenophobic fear that somebody else's platform is going to kick off. Not everybody wants Meta headset, right? But I want the VR racing game. I want the motorcycle racing game, but it's only on the Meta VR headset. And that just pisses me off. I'm never going to be that customer. And so if you want somebody that's going to support VR, this exclusivity is anti-competitive. So if they want a VR platform that's successful, then they should be promoting VR in all of its accessibility so that everybody moves into it.
But what company wants to do that? The problem is it's all developer driven, right? And they're
Right.
all out for their own company or platform or whatever.
Well, it
But maybe
depends.
they need to, I don't know, they need to like make it so that it can be used on every platform. Of course, then the costs probably go up, etc.
It does not cost that much more to develop for the PC than it does for the Meta platform because it's really all the same code. It's just some drivers that extend it into the PC platform. So if you look around, virtual reality growth projections are all over the map. Yeah, we've talked about this. We even have a show. It's right after this one called Reality Hacker that focuses on that. Most of the folks with money invested in the market see nothing but blue sky ahead, but several core problems remain. Virtual reality headsets still make a lot of people sick, anywhere from 40 to 70%. But it's temporary, folks. You can get over it quite easily by taking the headset off for a little bit, putting it back on. Most people adapt. It's motion sickness. VR sickness is what it is. The other problem is largely lack of any true unmissable killer app. And they say that they're not a VR doomer, the author of this. It's over at TechDirt. They currently own 3 headsets, PS5, VR2, Oculus Quest, and something else. We'll take a look on the other side.
And I bet they're like in 1% or less of people. The other thing it said is just having the headset on their face.
Hold on a second. That has to be a typo. Yeah. That should be Valve Index, not Vive. Vive is a different VR headset. Anyway, they say that they've been tinkering with technology since they first strapped on a headset back in 2000. Wow. 2000.
That's pretty far back for VR.
That is pretty far back. Using all 3 makes them sick for more than 20 minutes, no matter what kind of tricks they try. And while they've enjoyed some scattered game experiences on all 3, the market still seems fairly awash in lower quality derivative stuff that doesn't have a whole lot of staying power. Why they get sick is beyond me, but it happens. And it's not beyond me. While they can only use it for 20 minutes is beyond me because you usually condition to extend your stay in VR, not have to bounce out of it. But developers seem to agree with the state of the sector. A recent survey of game developers found that 56% of them find the VR market is currently declining or stagnating. That's because there's only a few developers that are paying for VR to be developed, and indie developers aren't getting much traction. What we need is more indie developers in VR space.
Right, but indie developers and gaming have a really uphill battle.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays there's a lot of indie developers that are hitting the market in the PC space, but it's the ones that are getting the push are the ones that are being bought by companies like Meta. And really, we need just more people talking about VR, which is why I talk about VR. We need more. I would love to demo VR applications, but they are actually few and far between in the grand scheme of things. And not everybody can afford a VR headset. And that's the heavy lift. And it's a one-time thing. Like the only thing you can use a VR headset for are VR-based whatever, whereas AR or mixed reality headsets, you can be both. So we need to actually play into the mixed reality, extended reality, augmented reality space, not just VR.
This seems like what we did with vehicles. Like we jumped straight to EVs instead of really trying to get to hybrids first. Why are we jumping to VR first?
Yeah. Yeah. Mainly because it's a controllable thing. You don't have to worry about seeing through it, I suppose. So then, of course, they say there's Meta and Mark. I'm no longer political while I'm lobbying government for favors and kissing up to Republican Zuckerberg is what this is quoted as, because apparently they may have said that to motherjones.com, who somehow thought that he could magically translate his giant boomer heavy sneaker advertising empire into a near magical domination of the entirety of virtual spaces. While the Meta headsets are decent products, the same problem remains. VR simply doesn't have mass market appeal. They can't underestimate how little most of the public likes having cumbersome, dorky plastic strapped to their face, which is what I keep talking about. And these glasses are big. These are augmented reality glasses, by the way, and they're big, dumb, dorky glasses. These things are not the ones where you want to be wearing them. They're not this. You know, they're not regular old glasses. They're big old clunky, ugly things. With only 2 hours of battery life, by the way. Anyway, so now you need to develop some groundbreaking software ecosystem and compilation of near magical, non-vomit inducing killer apps that justify the price tag. Good luck.
That's a long ways off from where we are.
By the way, all of the ones that are short of the Ray-Ban glasses, which aren't really truly augmented reality, these are nowhere to be seen in the public market. They're not going to be sold to the public. Although you can get a developer edition of them. You have to subscribe and stuff like that. Anyway, like LLMs, AI, there's just a ton of potential in virtual and augmented reality that goes well beyond pretending to be Batman. Batman. Sorry, you have to say it with a grumbly voice. Unfortunately, VC hucksters once again let the apple cart get ahead of the horse, flooding the market and press with mindless hype and unrealistic expectations. So this article is by Carl Bode over at This Is Not the Miracle We Were Promised department at techdirt.com. I think I just got into this article without giving credit to it, but there you have it. 56% of VR devs say VR declining or stagnating. So they know all of the VR devs out there?
No, this is probably some little poll that, like anything else, it doesn't, there's no way they talk to all of them.
All of them. Sentient AI from the future. All of them were polled. Every single last one of them. And they came to a 56% of VR devs.
That seems like a low percentage.
Yikes. Moving on. Last article for today's non sequitur news is over in ohmTown.com under the WarCrafters channel. Twitch now requires a warning label for politics and sensitive social issues, and it's going over exactly as well as you'd expect. So, no, because what you define as political and what you define as sensitive social issues is not what I define. You know, your freedom fighter is my terrorist. My freedom fighter is your terrorist. It doesn't fall in this. Talking about politics shouldn't upset people to the point. We need to demand more from society. You know, when you sit there and talk about something hateful and vindictive, it's not political. It isn't a sensitive social issue. If you are,
it's just some ism.
It's insane that now we have to label something because somebody feels that they've been slighted by something political. You can talk about politics. What you should not accept as any member of society is something hateful, vengeful, vindictive, abusive, constraining, etc. You know, again, your convenience shouldn't be my inconvenience. I shouldn't have to warn you, short of, hey, we're going to talk about movie spoilers. And then, you know, hey, guess what? I do have a label for that. Ta-da! But no, but again, if you talk about something hateful, vindictive, abusive, etc., there's certain things, nobody's taking anything away from you by saying you're not allowed to sit in my channel and talk about hateful, vindictive, racist, whatever stuff. And it's not political. That is a social aspect of existence.
I think people have conflated these topics with the conduct because people that are screaming the loudest are sometimes engaging in this conduct related to these topics, but the topics aren't the problem.
Yeah. And by the way, the last place that I saw this, where you're not allowed to talk about this, is I'm involved with a company that is spinning up its production here in the United States, and it's a Chinese company. And they adamantly demand that you do not talk about election, civil integrity, war or military conflict, civil rights, etc. in their forum.
I was thinking of another example where that may have come up, but yes.
So it says Twitch has added a new category in its content classification guidelines covering politics and sensitive social issues, meaning that streams discussing topics such as elections, civic integrity, you're not allowed to talk about society in a social network.
Yeah, that sounds like it's coming out of a different country.
War and military conflict. Meanwhile, you're playing a game, Call of Duty Black Ops, Counter-Strike.
Right, you can play that, but you can't talk about it.
Etc. Yeah. Because it's a game. It's not reality, right? But you're not allowed to talk about it. And oh my God, you're not allowed to talk about civil rights. Civil rights. You can be deplatformed because you want to talk about civil rights. Women should be allowed to vote. All people should be allowed to vote.
Right.
Black Lives Matter.
Civil rights cover things like people clamoring for those things, right? Not trouncing on them. But both sides, you should be able to talk about it.
Right.
You shouldn't be able to harm people.
Although there's a large cluster of people that want to take away civil rights,
Right, but they should still be able to say that. That doesn't mean people have to agree with them.
Right. Yeah, society should really speak for itself and not, well, they should just ignore the wingnuts, but that's not what's happening. No. But anyway, yeah. So we'll need to be labeled as such to ensure viewers don't accidentally stumble into them and be exposed to content that they might find offensive.
It's pretty offensive calling for people to be treated fairly.
Content classification labels are required for streams that don't violate Twitch's community guidelines, but contain materials that might be appropriate for everyone, including younger viewers. In the past, that included things like M-rated games, sexual themes, drug use, violence. But now, politics. The new policy follows weeks of back and forth complaints about Islamophobia and anti-Semitism on the platform. Andy Chalk over at PCGamer.com. But this is the whiplash. They've done this before, where they've knee-jerked their way into a policy only to have to backtrack from it.
Right. How many weeks do we give this till this changes? Maybe a couple.
So the new content category comes in the wake of an ugly month for Twitch. Popular streamer Zach Asmongold-Hoyt was suspended for 2 weeks following a racist tirade in which he described Palestinians as quote unquote terrible people. And then totally cleaned his kitchen, and everybody apparently forgot that he made these remarks. But why wouldn't that be acceptable when you have people literally saying that an entire country is garbage? And it's okay by a large cohort of people, although, it's beyond my understanding how you can be this sociopathic. But at the same time, it came to light that Twitch had quietly stopped taking email verified signups from Israel and Palestine. By the way, they reversed that. Again, it's one of the things where they said unacceptable miss and the confusion it has caused. whoops, our bad, right? The events put Twitch's policy under the microscope as the platform was accused of various parties of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia or gross negligence or straight up incompetence. Spurred by those accusations, Twitch CEO Dan Clancy, who I've watched and listened to, and they really kind of come across as kind of just go with the flow kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, that explains some of these ping pong maneuvers.
Yeah,
What I don't really get is like a lot of these large companies seem to struggle with this,
right.
but it seems like some of the platforms have more problems than others. And I don't mean because the users are different or whatever, but if somebody's doing it and everybody's okay with the policies and whatever, why aren't the others like kind of emulating them? They're all just kind of like you said, doing these knee jerk reactions. People don't like it, and then it causes more problems than if they hadn't even put the policy in place.
Because the reason why it exists is because somewhere along the line, a large influx of bad actors come in and the policy isn't locked down from the beginning and used uniformly. If you promote hate, racism, Islamophobia, etc., as defined by some policy, which is, threats against somebody, accusations that aren't founded in reality, you make certain statements. It's all logged in the chat. If you're doing nothing but sitting in the background picking your nose, nobody knows that you're a racist. But when you pop up and start spewing your vindictives, that right there is grounds for you to be banned. Unfortunately, they can make an alternate account and come back.
Well, right, but they also a lot of times don't even shut those accounts down, or they
Right.
suspend them for a very short period to come back and probably continue to do the same thing.
Right. And then they'll just go over to Kick or something like that. But they won't. There's always a platform that seeks to benefit from whatever it is. And now, like for me, I'm like, I think that if you are a person that likes to talk about something, there's always going to be an audience for you. For me, it's hard to find it on Twitch, but I don't really do much on Twitch. I do a show a day for an hour, and I think that it's a reasonable show. I don't sit there and spew vindictives. I'm not, promoting racism, et cetera, et cetera. But there is an audience for somebody out there that is doing exactly that. And people will discount everything because they like to play World of Warcraft. And so they'll go, oh, it's okay. Right. Meanwhile, there's somebody that may or may not be doing good somewhere. And because it's now in to vilify them, they go after that person. And then they deplatform them and cancel, et cetera, and who knows what the real context of a lot of this is. But a video that shows them being hateful, vindictive, Islamophobic, et cetera.
Right. Seems like a strong basis to kick them out of the platform.
Yeah, just punt, and take all of the hate-filled people with you. Go. That's fine. We want the platform to be positive for everybody. We don't want it to just make money while you are denigrating the actual reputation of the organization as a whole. Because we allow that to go, you are ruining it for everybody else. And that's what's going to happen. So, and that's what I said at the beginning of this little soapbox. They never had the policy in place and it be used as described. If you are determined by our organization to be spewing hate, etc., you are punted off of here. It's not about free speech. Hate speech is not protected. And that's the end of it. But now, apparently, there's a really good chance that people like my show will have to flag it as being, it's going to have sensitive social issues. Well, not everybody has that as, so here's the example cited by Twitch. So here's what it says. It's a very standard, bland, zero tolerance sort of thing, but it does come alongside with some new rules, or more specifically, the new content category for politics and sensitive issues, which will require classification labels on streams dealing with such topics. Examples cited by Twitch include streams featuring former or current political officials if the content includes discussions with these individuals around public policies. So is it around the political officials? Okay, then I'm safe. Live coverage or commentary on elections or civic processes or election-related disputes. Are you kidding me?
Well, these aren't the worst ones. I think
Oh, I know.
last three are so broad.
Haven't gotten there yet. Live streams of protests, rallies, civil unrest related to civil rights issues or government policies. So you're not allowed to talk about anything civil, society related. This show is probably running afoul.
You can't even show it either.
Right.
Which,
Discussing,
maybe some news.
Discussing military conflicts, foreign policy decisions, or national security matters. Discussing them. I know of a Doom streamer that only logs into Twitch when there is something going on, some global
their whole
conflict.
Channel would have to be labeled, right? Everything they do,
right,
would hit on one of these or more.
Right, but that's actually kind of like a dumpster fire. People want to watch it, so they're going to come in there, right? Meanwhile, and it's a dumpster fire, so people really want to watch it. Meanwhile, my show, which is we talk about science, technology, and society. Society. I don't talk about politics. I talk about the societal impact of things. And use technology. The fulcrum is technology. So I'm going to have to label my shows whenever I happen to just land on something socially driven.
Which is going to be every show.
Potentially. Yeah, there's always a little bit of society here, right? Discussing ideological or socio-political views on topics like gender, race, sexuality, or religion.
Yeah, that was the one that really jumped out at me because it wasn't the most egregious, but it was the most broad. That could cover so many things. Yeah.
And discussing legislation related to a sensitive social issue such as reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus rights, or immigration. You have to be freaking kidding me.
I don't think this policy makes it very long.
Now, this is a private company, so this isn't the government. First Amendment doesn't really apply. That's not how this works. First Amendment is a constraint on federal government, not on private corporations. What private corporations can do is violate civil rights by saying that if you are a member of a protected class, you can't do these things, right?
I think part of the problem is that with platforms, they are sometimes a place for news information. And so that's where I think you're potentially getting into some First Amendment rights. I also think then you can't show things that are happening in your local, state, federal government. And I think that is where you're going to start to bring in those arguments.
So where else are you going to go?
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And just so everybody is abundantly clear, I'm not in favor of these things. I think that you should be able to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And society should tamp you down if you are spewing all kinds of whatever. But I also realize that technology has been the fulcrum by which hate has fomented and amplified the message to like-minded individuals who are equally psycho and sociopathic, antisocial. That is beyond a shadow of a doubt. Go read a book called The Rise of Sociopathy, and you'll see that it's damn near a survival trait in modern society. And this is actually facilitating that because now these people are going to congregate somewhere else. You're going to protect yourselves here, but there isn't going to be any discourse about the abuses that are taking place. because there isn't some place that is actually embracing the discussion and civil discourse. Treat the abusers as abusers and kick them off the platform, but don't disable somebody's social option to discuss things like reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus rights, immigration, religion, race, sexuality, gender, national security, foreign policy decisions. All of this is a part of society.
Right. And it seems like a lot of the speech that would get shut down under this policy is actually that calling for
Beneficial.
beneficial or equivalent things. And I understand perhaps the intent behind some of these policies, although I don't agree with them. Right? They are trying to shut down people that are doing some pretty egregious things. But when platforms unrelated to Twitch don't take action when people are airing like violence, I mean, real life violence or real life calling for threats to a person, they need to tackle that kind of thing before they ever start getting into these broad categories that really are going to work against some of the intention of the very policies to begin with.
This is an attempt to protect the potential for advertisers to advertise on all of the streams. So if you don't do it, then what are they going to do? They're going to kick you off. But that's going to negatively impact your advertising opportunities anyway. But there are some people that will just happily play games and nothing else and not talk about politics. Although every gamer that I've ever seen has kind of bumblefarted their way into a political or social discussion.
Right. And are they even going to think to label something, because that's not the purpose of their channel, but it could veer into a lot of topics.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see what happens with my channel. So thanks for being the co-host while we're able to be the co-host. Oh, and so with that, I didn't label anything, and that's going to bring us back to the front page of ohmTown.com, where we're going to call it a day for a non sequitur news, where we kind of happily trip from one topic to another. We're going to shut down, I'm going to rebuild, and we're going to start up Reality Hacker, which is all about AI and VR and machine learning. Well, technology about hacking your reality. So that's it. I am Mayor Watt, and along with the Sentient AI, about to sing us a little ditty about labeling our channel. No, you're not going to. You don't want to do that?
No, I don't have a tune ready. Okay. Good night, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for non sequitur news. Be back soon for Reality Hacker and 2 more shows after that.
Who knows? We might not. We'll have to see once, the great audit takes place. We'll see if non sequitur news and ohmTown persists on Twitch. I mean, we're not even an affiliate, so it's okay. We'll see. Bye, everybody. Bye. Maybe forever. We'll miss you. See you over on YouTube, at least until